Hello everyone and welcome to your next practical lesson for website design and development at National 5. So we're looking at the implementation section today. First of all, your starter, quite simply, please send to me in a comment on Satchel 1, what does HTTPS stand for? You get most of that answer later in this PowerPoint. So today we're going to look at adding media to your page. And that's to make them even more exciting than just having text and images. We're going to make them more interactive and interesting by adding audio and video. Now this is the code. Here's a normal web page here. It's got a little heading, embedded sound example. And then there are 4 lines of code that we add for the audio part. Okay, so these are the 4 lines of code. We've got audio controls for the open, and then we've got a close audio tag. We've got the location and the name of the sound file. Now, as before, we've got the double dots saying go up out of this folder, which would be your HTML folder, go into the resources folder, and find the file called dogbarking.mp3. Now, the type of sound file is an MP3. Now, you may have a different one. You might have WAV or WAV, W-A-V. That's fine. Just make sure that you get the right name for your file and change the type here. We need audio, but then you could change that to WAV. Then we've got an error message. Your browser does not support the audio element, so just in case it doesn't work. So to view it in your web page, if we're using Google Chrome, it would look a bit like this. If we're using Internet Explorer, it would look a bit like this. And if you're way back in the dark ages with Internet Explorer version 7, you would get the error message popping up. Okay. So if when we're looking at implementing video, it's very, very similar. There's the same sort of 4 lines, just one little extra bit. So we've got the opening and closing video tags. Then we've got the dimensions that the video will be displayed at. You don't want, your entire page taken up by the video. So I've just gone for a width of 320 and a height of 240. You've then got the location and the name of the video file. Same deal, go up out of the HTML file, go down into the resources file and find your MP4 file. Now you might use a MOV file, that would also be supported. So here at the end we've got the type of video file, in this case is MP4. And once again we've got the error message, just in case somebody's using an old version of a browser. Okay, so viewing the video in the web page in Google Chrome, you're going to see something like that. Okay, if you were in Internet Explorer, you'll see something like this. And once again, if you're still stuck in Internet Explorer version 7, you're going to get the error message popping up. Okay, now your first practical task is that you're going to add an audio clip and a video clip to your country web page. So let's have a little look at that. Here's my country web page. This is why you weren't allowed to do Scotland. That's because I'm doing Scotland. Okay. And it's we've got our external hyperlink here. So all I'm going to do is add in some code for my web page. Now, to save you listening to my incredibly loud keyboard, I have copy and pasted some of this. So I've got a little heading I want to appear underneath the external hyperlink saying Flower Scotland. And then I've got those 4 lines that I was mentioning, all about the audio controls. This will work. Okay, so audio controls, source, resources, Flower of Scotland.mp3, type, it's off the screen, but audio mp3. Again, an error message just in case, and then close the audio. Now, I'm going to save my file, I'm going to refresh my web page, and here is an audio clip. Now, I got this one because it is royalty free, therefore I'm being totally legal. However, it takes a wee while to kick into gear, so I'll just forward a bit. So just proof that I do have a sound clip in there. Okay, now next thing is we're going to add a video file. So again, I'm just going to copy and paste this to try and do things a little bit quicker. So I've got a little heading that will appear obviously above my video file, and let's see what I've got for you this time. Get things nicely in line. Okay, so we've got the width and the height. We're going off to my resources folder, finding Highland Cow. It's video MP4, and we've got our error message again, just in case. So let's save that notepad file and refresh my web page. And here is my video. This is a video that I took on my phone, so not very good. But it means, again, it is royalty free, or rather, I beg your pardon, it is owned by me. So I am perfectly legal when I am displaying this on my web page. Okay, and then a car passed. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Okay, so there we go. That is the web page additions for audio and video that I want you to make. So, but in here I'm saying your practical task is your first practical task. Add an audio and video clip to your country web page. Now, they do not need to be relevant to your country. I do not mind if you go off and just add your favourite song, you know, your favourite MP3 of your favourite song. That doesn't matter. The exercise here is seeing if you can add audio and video clips correctly. Okay. Now, one of the issues you might have is if you're going away and you are trying to download some audio and video clips from the internet, you might struggle with just quickly trying to find something else up here. You might struggle in finding some valid files that work. So in the Teams and Files, in Class Materials, in Website Practical, I've added another folder here called Sample Audio and Video Clips. They're nothing to do with countries. We've got a sound file called Kalimba, very entertaining, and a big long video about Pie Game. Okay, now we know that they work, so if you want to download those and add those, that's what the exercise is involved in doing, please, is just making sure that you can add sound and video. It doesn't have to be relevant. Okay, please don't get bogged down searching forever trying to find relevant clips. Okay, now next practical task is we need to create a website now. So at the minute we've just got one page, so I want you to add a second HTML file to your country folder so we can get a website. And this new web page is all about one of your country's geographical features, so a mountain, a river, a lake, a volcano, waterfall, forest, desert, etc. Okay. Now that second page must include at least one H1 tag and two H2 tags, and there'll be sort of like 3 different sections therefore about your feature, at least one paragraph, an unordered list, and 2 new images of the feature that you've chosen. And then I want you to add internal hyperlinks from each of your 2 pages to each other so that we have created a website. Okay, so don't add any styling to your web pages, but here is an example. So here we go. I've basically got my same web page, but I've got here, click here to a page all about Ben Nevis. And here's my Ben Nevis page. 2 pictures, an H1, 2 H2s, an unordered list, a paragraph. Okay, that's all I'm after, so that when we come to add styling in a different method later on, you have got a website to apply it to. Okay, so let's go back to this. Quick bit of theory. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator, and that is the term used for the full web address for a given web page. So I've got here https www.bbc.co.uk folder, cricket, and then a big long number. Let's break that down. HTTPS is the protocol, hypertext transfer protocol that will be used to retrieve this web page. www.bbc.co.uk is the domain name, and that specifies the name of the web server that stores that web page, website, away in London, wherever. We've then got sport, and then inside that we've got cricket. So these are folders where the page will be found. So in the web server, there's a folder called sport. Inside the sport folder, there's a folder called cricket. And then inside that folder is the actual web page. The BBC just gives numbers because they've got so many web pages on their website. Okay, so this is new theory. This is important, the terms relative and absolute addressing. There are 2 types of hyperlink that we use in our web pages. You know this. Internal hyperlinks. That links to a page within the same website and domain. And you know what it looks like, home.html. Here's the new point. Internal hyperlinks use something called relative addressing. And this is because the web page that's being linked to is within the same website. So it's like your family, it's like your relations, your relatives. Okay, you're all together in the same website. That is the relative addressing that we would use. Just simply the name of the web page. However, when you do an external hyperlink, the link takes you to a page or a document in another website or domain, and you must use the full URL. So with the HTTPS, where is it? There we go, en.wikipedia.org, folder called wiki, and then a web page called Scotland. Now, external hyperlinks must use the full website address, and that's absolute addressing. So you've got to absolutely put in the whole link URL that would be able to locate that correct web page in a completely different website, okay, using the browser, using the internet, okay, absolute addressing to take you to an external link. Okay, now back to styling. There's 3 ways to style your web pages. Last week we looked at inline styling, where you put the style in the actual tag. Okay, we then looked at internal styling, where you put everything together in a style section inside the head section. Okay, and then you put lots of styling in there all at once at the top of the page. And now we're going to look at external styling, which uses a separate .css file. Now, cascading style sheets are used to style a web page from outside the original HTML file. And CSS coding is created in Notepad++ and is saved as the file type .css. And the reason that we use CSS files is to allow consistency across a number of web pages within one website. That's the first reason why we would use CSS files, and that would be your exemplary answer in the question paper if you were asked about CSS. Now, although it's more effort to create 2 files, an HTML file and a CSS file separately, there are a number of benefits to its use. Can you think of any? Well, I've already given you the first one. It means that all the pages on your website will be consistent with the same style. The next point is that it saves on multiple implementations of your styling code. You only need to type it once. So you've created an HTML file. You then create a CSS file with all the styling for it. And then every single subsequent HTML file that you add will just get their styling information from there. You don't need to type it in again. So that saves you time. The third benefit or advantage is that it's easier to make adaptations in the long run. So if you want to change one thing in your whole website, you just change it once in your CSS file and then every web page is instantly updated. So I've suddenly decided I want all my background colours on my web pages to be green. So if I click on my CSS file, just to demonstrate, one change in my CSS file and all of my web pages are now green. Okay, now we've got another practical task then. So you're going to add styling to your country website all at once using this external styling. Now I just want you to check first of all that you set your folders up correctly, like I asked you to do last week when you first created your country page. I said that inside your practical folder you should have a meaningfully named folder with the name of your country. So I've got a folder called Scotland. And inside that I've got 3 folders, one called CSS, one called HTML, and one called resources. Inside the CSS file, we're going to create this, we've not done it yet, but inside my HTML folder, I've got my home page and I've got my feature page about Ben Nevis. And inside my resources folder, I've got my pictures for my 2 pages, I've got my sound file and I've got my video file. So you just double check that you've got everything laid out correctly like that, saved correctly like that. You know that when you save files, we're creating things in Notepad++, we've got to get the correct file type. So HTML files, you give it a reasonable name and you save as type hypertext markup language file in your HTML folder. For your CSS files, we give them a name. In general, we're going to call them styles and then save as type Cascade Style Sheets file. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're now going to make our first CSS declaration. Now this involves you creating a CSS file in Notepad++, calling it styles, saving it as a .css file type, and making sure that you save it in your CSS folder. And we're going to add in the first line of code, which will change the background colour of our web page. Now you guys make sure you choose your own background colour, but make sure it's a light colour. And you can go and look in W3 Schools. Just search in the browser HTML colour names and it'll take you to a big list of different colours that you could use. Okay, so just to show you how to do that. Here is my web page for Scotland, and here is my file for it. Okay, I've got my audio file, I've got my video file, and now I am going to create a CSS file. So in Notepad++, I'm going to create a new file, and quite simply all I have to add to that is the information about the background colour, and you will see that this is exactly the same sort of information that you would have in the style section. So body, curly brackets, background colour, don't forget to misspell colour, and light cyan is a nice light blue. Okay, so we've got to save this correctly. So File and Save As. Now at the minute I'm in my HTML folder, so I need to go back up a level, make sure I'm in my CSS folder. That wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm going to create a new file called Styles, and save as type Cascade Style Sheets file, and then save. Okay, and it does its usual thing of changing colours and looking pretty and stuff. Now that's all well and good. So I have now created my CSS file, but the next thing that I have to do is make sure that I can now link to it. So it's all fine having the CSS file, but the HTML file, each HTML file needs to know to go where to find it. So we've got this link relationship. It's a style sheet. The type is a text document. I've made it in Notepad++, and it's a CSS file. And the hyperlink references, I'm going to go up a level out of my HTML folder where this HTML file is saved. I'm going to go into my CSS folder, and then I'm going to find the document I've just created called styles.css. Okay, so we're going to have to add that line of code to each of our HTML files. Okay, so at the moment I've saved this CSS, but if I go and refresh my web page, nothing changes, okay, because I need to go to my home page, and in the head section, which is information about your web page, as opposed to the body section, which is the actual contents of everything that will display or appear on your web page. Okay, so in the head section, I need to add in that line of code. Link rel style sheet type text CSS, href, go off to my CSS folder and find that file. I can save that, and also I need to do the same in my Ben Nevis file. So my HTML file for Ben Nevis also needs to have that. So both of my files have got the link, both of them have been saved, so let's go and check. There we go, refresh the web page and it's got pale blue background. Let's double check the Ben Nevis page. Yep, pale blue background. Just to confirm I've definitely done that right, I'll go and make it something horrible. How about yellow? Save my CSS file, refresh, ugh. Okay, and also the home page. Yeah, so don't like that. Take it back to light cyan. Okay, for both of the web pages. Right, so that's what I want you to do, is create the CSS file, put the links in the HTML files. Then, as I say, add in lots of styling to your CSS file now. That's why I asked you to add unordered lists, H2s, paragraphs, all sorts of things. Play about with this, play about with the styling. You can add in alignment, you could change font families, etc. And do it in that one CSS file. Every time you make a change, save and then refresh your country web pages as you're going along and check that they're both changing with each change that you make. Okay, so here's a summary of what I've asked you to do today. Add an audio and a video file to your country web page. Create a second web page about a physical feature of your country. Link the two files together with internal hyperlinks. Create a styles.css file with a body background color and save it in your CSS folder as type CSS. Add a link to this file in the head section of both of your HTML pages. And then check that your body background color works for both of your web pages, and then add lots more styling to your CSS file. Okay, just to practice that. So Your Satchel1 online submission, a Word document that shows the code and screenshots of both of your pages. Make sure you put appropriate headings, like home.html code, home.html screenshot, etc. And only if possible, please, only if possible, and remember this is 2 hours worth of work, a wee video showing your sound and audio clip working on your web page. In school we use this application I'm using at the minute, and it's a free resource from screencast-o-matic.com. Okay, but seriously, only if you want to give it a go and send me a wee video proving that you've got sound and video working in your web pages. Okay, right guys, thank you very much. See you soon. Bye bye. Take care.